Zauntee.
Chaplain Milton.
Yo.
Yes, sir.
Good to be back. This is the Wake Up Die podcast. This is where Zauntee and I dive into these conversations about living a life for the Lord. And we believe that that's the life that is the one you've been wanting to live. You just didn't know it. And we've been diving into these 5 areas of where we need to wake up first, and then we need to die, surrender it, give it up, because that will put us in the place where we need to be with the Lord. So today we're diving into another subject.
Yeah. We've been talking about the 5 categories Jesus mentions when he's asked, what's the greatest commandment? It's love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
So we kind of been going one by one on those 5, and today we're talking about loving the Lord your God with all of your strength.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that the other 3 that we've talked about kind of set this one up.
Okay.
The thing is interesting that we're going to talk about today is that your body, your flesh, is not for you.
That's what strength is. It's
like
the physical.
The strength is the physical.
Right.
Right? And so it's like, if you love God with all your strength, it's pretty much the understanding that all of you, even your physicality, you're giving all of that to Him.
Yeah.
Your wants, your desires, the things, those reflex reactions that you have as a human being, you're asking Him for His will, like we've talked about, instead of doing maybe what's comfortable or what's easy. But I think something that, when it starts with the wake up part, because that's been our formula, wake up, find out what's wrong, then die. How do we fix it? By giving it to God. Waking up in this area for me was understanding for the first time in my life that my flesh or my carnality wasn't for me. Like, it's not on the same side as you. You kind of always think about yourself. When you look in the mirror, you see you. And what I started to realize is more of who I am is my heart, my soul, my mind. That's who I am as a being, as a human. I'm a spirit being that's having a human experience. And one of the things that I learned is that, kind of maybe throughout history, say we lived thousands of years ago, maybe your flesh, your body was going to tell you, hey, this is uncomfortable out here. We need to go gather some food. Or there's a wolf pack out there by the campfire. Or, let's go west. Let's settle this area. Or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
There's all of these kind of urges or reflexes that your body has set up to protect you. You touch a hot stove, you learn that it burns.
You pull back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? But what happens is as society gets more and more comfortable, and as things are more and more convenient, I feel like generation by generation, we're getting to this point where it's like our body is not necessarily for us. There's not that much that's, fight or flight type stuff.
Yeah.
So it's basically, especially as a believer and a follower of Jesus, there's a lot of things that my body is telling me to do to keep me comfortable or satisfied or, scratch the itch of your reflex that aren't helping me, 1, get closer to God, 2, be better as a person.
I so connect with that. I know that when my life has been at its weakest, at its worst, it's when I was allowing the urges of my body, of my flesh, to make the choices for me and to take me down the paths that I wanted to be. And here's where I see it in church a lot. And you tell me if you've seen this with anybody who's lived in church for a while. So church becomes, especially in a very conservative, legalistic approach to church, which means like follow the rules, right? So you grow up in that environment and everything has been decided for you, right? They've told you how to walk, how to talk, how to dress, how to eat, all of it, right? So it's very formulaic and you learn how to play the part.
Yep.
But here's what happened. Here's what happened to me, and it happens to many young people. You get outside of that, like you go to college or you move away from your family and you're in a new environment where now you don't have that. That isn't expected of you anymore. Now all of a sudden, the flesh feels freedom. And the flesh is like, yo, let's go.
Yeah, it's like first day out.
Let's do this. Yeah. And that's what happened to me. I went to college and my life just went in a completely opposite direction of where it was. And it's so, I realize now that I look back, it's because those other 3 areas hadn't been developed.
Yeah,
they weren't strong. And of course, the more dominant part of my life was going to take over,
Yeah.
and that was the flesh.
I think we talked a lot about like how kind of the undertow of life. Like if you're not actively swimming, you'll get pulled by the current.
Yeah.
You're not going to ever be in a neutral position. You're not going to ever be able to just stand still. Like if you do nothing, the current's going to pull you
Right.
further down. And so I think like what you're saying is super wise, because if you don't develop, the heart, the soul, the mind, if you don't get that closeness with God, which to summarize, I mean,
Yeah.
loving God with all your heart is saying, it's not my will, but yours be done. And you're asking for him to be Lord of your life. Loving him with all your soul is intimacy with him, having relationship, your identity being in Christ. Loving the Lord with all your mind is setting your mind on his thoughts, his ways, asking him for the blueprint, right? So if you're not actively feeding those areas, the neutral, that undertow that we've referred to in those other 3 episodes, is the flesh, is the carnality. That's what's pulling at you.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I've learned, it's the same thing, whether you grew up in church, whether you didn't, when you're neutral, what always, everybody has a vice, or everybody has, it's pretty much escapism, and it's just in different forms. But whatever your vice is, or whatever your escapism is, it's always doing the same thing, which is pretty much what sin does. It satisfies you right away and hurts you in the long run. That's one of the reasons why I was able to stop doing things that helped me escape, because I understood the concept that even though this feels like what I want, it's not really what I want. The real me wants to get better. At the end of the day, that's why I felt frustrated every time I would revert back to a habit. It was like, I actually want to get better. I'm tired of this. I know it doesn't satisfy me, but it's really hard to like go through that withdrawal of not being in a place of escaping. And what happens is I've heard it put this way, like, I forget where, but there's somebody who describes it as Mr. Ugly. Like, imagine if there's just like this greasy, hairy guy who walks up behind you and is massaging your shoulders and is like in the morning, like it's gross.
This feels really weird right now.
But he's like
I don't want any greasy, hairy guy massaging
he's right
me in
there,
any
he's
way.
seeing dirt under his fingernails. He's massaging your shoulders, and he's like, just sleep 10 more minutes.
This metaphor.
Don't go work out today. Or he's like,
Right.
Hey, just go. It doesn't hurt. Just one more time, right? Monday. We'll get right on Monday. You already messed up this morning. Just finish out the day. What does it matter? You don't have to fix this.
Right.
Just wait till Monday. All right. First of the month is coming up. That's when we'll get right. Just indulge yourself a little bit more. Come on, it's not that bad. You've had a rough day. And whatever your escapism is, Mr. Ugly is breathing down your neck, convincing you day in and day out. And the reason why I describe it like that is because most people kind of have a visceral reaction. I want to fight. I don't like that feeling. But that's how we need to look at our flesh. It's not for you. It's not, actively trying to help you. It's this virus that's trying to get you deeper and deeper into comfort, because that's what it wants. It wants to self-preserve. I've heard it put this way.
Yeah.
This is beautiful to me. You know why your flesh doesn't care about self-destruction?
Why?
It doesn't care about your spirit because it's not going with you. Your flesh doesn't care about your well-being because it's not going with you when this is over.
Interesting. Okay.
So when you die and you're going into eternity with God,
right.
That's your spirit. That's the essence of who you are, spending eternity with him. Your flesh doesn't care because it's not going with you.
Yeah.
So right now, its ultimate goal is comfort. It's indulging in the Matrix. It's like in that story of the Matrix where the one guy's like, just keep me asleep and keep me really comfortable. I don't want to wake up to the reality.
I don't want to even know like what was really going on.
Like,
I want to forget everything.
Rather be comfortable. Make me rich and famous. Make me king in this Matrix. And I think you'll notice that anybody who really makes a change, there's a lot of people who hate them for it. Anybody who really make a difference, people don't believe them at first until they see results. Anybody who really makes an impact throughout history, especially Jesus, Yeshua from Nazareth, you got to be different to make a difference, and that starts by denying your flesh from the things that everybody else is doing and that you've always done.
Yeah, I want to make sure, because I can just imagine that somebody's listening to this and they're feeling like super shameful of their life, because that's how I would be like, oh man, he's describing exactly who I am, the person who always waits.
Why do you think I can describe it? I'm doing it. Like,
exactly.
I know what that's like.
I'm the person who's always waiting to make my life better.
Yeah.
I'm the person who always has an excuse for not doing the thing that I know I'm supposed to do, because that's what we do. And I don't ever want anyone to think that we're saying this thinking that it's easy.
No.
Because it's not
The whole
easy.
reason we're talking about it is because of how difficult it is. It took me years to understand how to even affect change in those areas. Because what would happen is, you know, one, there was a season of my life where I wasn't close to God, and so I was just doing whatever. And none of it worked. I mean, we know that feeling. It might feel good for a while, but eventually you start to drown.
Right.
Then there's that season where it's like, okay, consciously, I know what my mama taught me. I know what's right. I know what I should be doing. But I'm not going to talk to God until I figure this out. I'm going to fix it first. And then it's just a frustration. Like, some of us might be feeling that right in this moment, of hitting the wall over and over. I can't fix this. You know, even Paul, the apostle, wrote the majority of the New Testament is this just trademark example of giving your life to Jesus. He says, why do I do what I don't want to do? And why don't I do what I want to do? He's frustrated and struggling with this.
Right.
The only perfect individual ever was Jesus. So I know what it's like to, you know, without the help of God, keep hitting your head against the wall like, I want to fix this. It's not getting fixed. I feel like giving up. How do I see a change in this area? That's what we need to talk about is like, you're not alone in that. It's not something to be ashamed of. You don't get right to go to God. You go to God to get right. So therefore, how do I die in this area? Because I'm already aware that it's hurting me. Most of us are aware that the escapism isn't good for us. Yeah. Just like, how do we fix it and how do we resist our carnality?
Yeah, I'm facing a challenge in my life, and it'll probably be a lifelong challenge because my area when it comes to the flesh is food. That's the area where I struggle the most. I eating right, staying active. I've always liked to stay active, but to do it so that it helps my body. You know, not because I'm competing. Like I always like team sports, you know, because I want to beat the other person. But now I have to look at athletics because I'm older as a way to put my body under submission, right, and be active. But it was interesting. A couple of years ago, I lost 60 pounds, right, and it got to a healthy weight. And you know, I signed up for a program and I learned, you know, what I was supposed to eat and when, and you know, all the steps, the nutritional steps that I had to take. But here's where it was key in this approach. They started you first with what's up here. Mm-hmm. What's your mindset? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, what's your why?
What's your why? Yeah. What's your why? And then what are the lies that you believe about food?
Which is identity based. It's like, what do you...
My goodness, man, that was so transformational. And then the third element, which is what we're going to talk about next, in the next episode, I believe, is who are the people around you who can support you in this journey?
Yeah,
the community. You need these. It was like a three-legged. Like you have the nutritional. You know what you're supposed to eat and what you're not supposed to eat, but you're not going to make those choices unless your brain is right and unless you got the people around you. Yeah. And so I figured out. Here's what I figured out. I was seeing food as pleasure instead of as fuel.
Yeah, as like a reward.
Food is fuel. It fuels your body so that your body does what it's supposed to do, and it can be healthy. And if you fuel your body right, it will take care of itself. Yeah. So I had to go through almost like a psychological, spiritual process of figuring out, like, your flesh is against you.
Yeah.
You're thinking food is supposed to bring you joy. Your joy comes from somewhere else, doesn't come from food. So now put it in the right place, and your body will do what it's supposed to do. So
let's fill in the blank now. Let's take food and let's say, okay, anything.
Yeah.
Escape. We'll just call it escape. Whatever that addiction to an escape is. Mm-hmm. The way that our brain kind of wires it is like, this is the reward. This is kind of what I'm pushing for. Or, you know, things got really tough today, so this is how I'm going to blow off steam. This is going to be my reward, whatever category that is, right? One of the things that I realized, like you said, is like so much of, you know, I mean, there's certain things like if you're really spending time pursuing the other areas of heart, soul, and mind, closeness with God, if you're spending time in His Word, if you're praying to Him daily, if you're worshiping, if you're living your life in a way where it's like, okay, I'm fed up with the way I was, I'm going to submit my life to Christ. The more that you're in that closeness, it's like it's more difficult. It's not impossible, but it's more difficult for you to mess up the closer that you are with God relationally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, oh yeah, you become a perfect human and you get a Band-Aid, everything fixes. I'm saying like, it logically makes sense that the more time you're spending with him and the more that that's your normal and that's where you find your joy, it's easier and easier to avoid the things that hurt you. And I think you mentioned community was a part of the whole like food thing, right?
Yeah.
So like accountability is huge.
Big time.
The 5 people you spend the most time with, you're kind of the summary of those 5 people. So you have to be intentional with your circle. And I had to learn the difference between ministry and like friendship.
Okay. Break that down. What do you mean by that?
So like we're talking about your carnality, right? We're talking about human nature. A big way to fight your human nature is to be around people who are on what you're on.
Got you. Yeah.
And I have a heart to help. I want to be a witness. I know I'm far from perfect, so I try to help as many people as I can because I'm broken and I found Jesus. And I don't, it's hard for me to like, sometimes because, so we talked about, this goes back to like the earlier categories, we talked about finding, the negative why and replacing it with a positive why in the heart. Mm-hmm. So one of my negative whys was feeling left out, feeling like I didn't belong, feeling like I didn't have friends.
Right.
So the result of that can be whoever's close, you're like, even when they do things that are like red flags of like, okay, maybe this person shouldn't be in my inner circle, it's like, all right, well, I'll just overlook it. And you kind of like letting these friendships or a circle that's kind of bringing you down as an individual stick around. When you fix, which we talked about, I said you fix the broken why and you put in the new why, then you start to understand, okay, I'm loved by God and that's enough. I'm okay being alone if I'm close with him. Then you attract the correct people around you. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because a practical way that you can start to improve on habits is, first of all, waking up to the problems, understanding this needs to change, this is hurting me. And I know if we're being honest, most of the time we can see what those things are.
Right.
Then it's, okay, what does my circle look like right now? Which we're going to talk about when it's loving others. It's the next one.
Yeah.
But what does my circle look like? Are the people around me right now who are my inner circle? I'm not saying the work environment you're in or the school environment you're in.
Yeah.
Or maybe even sometimes your family. God will put you in scenarios where you've got to be a light. I'm talking about the people who are holding you accountable on your journey. You've got to be very clear that your inner circle is either on what you're on or, this is hard, you wait till the right inner circle comes. Mm-hmm. That's what I had to do.
Yeah.
I had to even like shift, a hot air balloon can't go up until it cuts the sandbags. So I had to shift and say, all right, I know me personally. These areas, I'm weak in these areas. And if I don't have people around me who are holding me accountable, but who are actually bringing those things up and making it seem like it's okay, it's not going to help me get better.
Yeah.
No matter how much they make me laugh or no matter how much I enjoy hanging out with them or, going out in the city at night or whatever, certain areas are causing me to become weaker and then indirectly it's hurting me.
Right.
And that's not a fun thing to analyze.
Right.
Because a lot of times if you want to be different, you have to be, separate. You've got to be careful about that. But the reason that applies to strength, loving God with all your strength, is because the Bible over and over talks about even Jesus sending the disciples out in twos.
Right.
Like he'll send them out in groups when they go to, help people. So, I don't know, I feel like you saying community kind of caught my attention because you need to be aware that whatever your circle is and the people you're around and those other 3 categories, what you consume, what you believe, is what you become.
My wife plays that role for me greatly in so many areas, right? So, in fact, it happened last night. Like, we eat a certain way, and my wife made a dessert, which was a dessert that's reasonable for the way for our health goals, right? It was a keto peach cobbler. It was good. She did a good job. But even that, you got to eat a certain amount of it. Like you're not just because it's keto or sugar free or fat free doesn't mean you down the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And she served up the amount for each of us. Mm-hmm. And I was about to dip back into the pan. Like I was ready because it was so good. Yeah. And I wanted it. And my body my flesh was like, have some more. Have some more. And that was the flesh telling me to do something that I didn't need. It was against me, like you said.
Yeah.
And she's like, honey, push it aside. Like, don't dip that fork in there.
It's hard not to be mad at the person holding you accountable at the time.
Right, but it feels judgy. Like, but to give the people permission, right, to say, like, to speak into your life and be like, hey, remember, this accountability is real, and we're gonna hold it. So if it's that gym buddy, right, if you're gonna work out, or if it's somebody holding you accountable to what you're gonna watch on TV, right? Because all of those things feed the flesh.
One of the most powerful things that you can do is fall in love with saying the word no. I hated saying no, because think about this. So Zauntee, no. I grew up, like I had an amazing childhood in a sense where even when we struggled, I'm grateful my parents loved me, and I didn't even know we were struggling. But at times, what happened is, as I got older, I realized, these are things that we didn't have growing up. This thing we didn't have, or maybe this experience that we didn't have, or this is the first time I'm getting some money, and it's like you have this mindset of like, I got to get mine. I gotta go get it while I can. Yeah. Whether it's as simple as like you're talking about eating, it's like, wow, I didn't have access to all these milkshakes and this fast food and stuff. Man, every time I'm out running errands, I'm gonna stop by McDonald's before I go home, right? Right. Or as extreme as like how you make money and then it's gone within a week or whatever, right? There's all this mindset stuff you got to fix. But saying no can also be important in the circle, because you have to be okay with the accountability, and you have to be strong enough to hold other people accountable. Yeah. So you gotta wait. For those of us who are not married, right? Like I'm praying it in. I'm believing for God's best.
She's coming, man. She's coming.
Sir. I'm like Kodak.
She's
I'm
on her way.
My wife. Jesus, please. But like for real, I'm waiting on it, right? So I had to like understand that. I believe that it's better to attract instead of to chase, right? The law of attraction, there's elements of that that's biblical. Don't chase, attract. And what that basically means is, if you are focused on becoming the person you're called to be, God will bring you the right stuff. Yeah. He'll bring you the right spouse. He'll bring you the right friend group. He'll bring you the right opportunities. He'll place you in the right situations. Yeah. Be still and know that I am God. Know that He is God, and He is big enough to let things fall into place. I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. So when that comes to your strength, loving God with all your strength, what that means is understanding, okay, hopefully I can rally a circle. Maybe it's a sibling. Like something as little as like my sister helped me do a bunch of meal prep when I was focusing on getting my eating right and, like zeroing in, getting the fitness side down. Okay, so she's going to help me do this because it feels overwhelming. And it's just a simple ask. Maybe it's a sibling, right? Or like going to the gym with my dad and my brother. Or maybe it's a friend. Like when I'm on the road and I'm traveling, I always travel with somebody else because of that scripture, And one of my mentors told me the disciples traveled in twos, have accountability with you on the road. That way you're doing the right thing, but also then people can't lie about you because you have somebody who's a witness with you. Right. So being intentional about that kind of stuff is important. If you don't have those people, closeness with God, focus in, because I had that season too. God will bring you the right people, because sometimes forcing the wrong people into your circle is worse than just thugging it out and waiting for the right person. And I think a good way to understand who's really about it in your life is to tell them no. That's why I brought that up. There's a song lyric that's been stuck in my head. It's like, your dog's only your dog until you tell him no. And it's like, then you'll find out who's actually my friend. And in the same sense, who are you able to hear no from? Right. Your wife says, hey, that's enough peach cobbler, right? Yeah. Like, it would be foolish of you to be like, hey, you don't tell me that. Like, right. I'm a man. I can eat cobbler if I want. Keep eating the cobbler. Well, like, you asked her to help you, be set up for success. That's it. So, like, receiving the accountability, and if you don't have anybody saying no, the Holy Spirit will speak and say, don't do this. I've had that happen before. God will literally, I'll hear the conviction before I do something. This is not the best move for you, son. Don't do this.
Okay, can we go to a little uncomfortable place with you? Okay, all right. Because I think this is an important point you just brought up. This whole thing of no, because you travel with somebody always. Because sometimes I think the reality is that sometimes someone else has to say the no for you.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're a Christian artist.
Yeah.
You go on tour. You're doing concerts. You're a young, good-looking man.
Thank you.
Okay? You're welcome. Let's be real. You're a celebrity to a certain degree inside the world you live in. Mm-hmm. There's got to be the temptation. There's got to be female fans that are around you.
Yeah.
Right? And one decision.
It takes a lifetime.
One
to
decision.
Build a
Yes.
And a moment to destroy it.
Exactly. One decision could be, it's the end of Zauntee.
Yeah.
As we know it. So you take that person with you to make sure that is there's a barrier to that.
I feel like people with platforms are afraid to be like open, like that they're human.
Yeah.
Our humanity, like ministry was never supposed to be, here's this perfect pastor or this priest or this artist that has everything figured out, you know, and I'm better than you and I'm a role model because I'm better than you. Try to be like me. No, follow me as I follow Christ. I'm trying to figure this out. And one of my mentors encouraged me, like I said, to do that. But another thing that was really interesting is I heard a pastor say that the weakest moments that he ever has is right after he finishes ministry. And I didn't understand what that meant until I started the tour. You'll walk away from a mountaintop experience. You'll walk away from, I just felt God's presence at this concert. I just talked to this one kid who wanted to end his life and heard the right song at the right time and everything changed. I'm an inspiration to these people that I'm around, and it's almost a surreal experience where like some people will you know never feel this. Some people will, but just the idea of, wow, there's people who are looking to me for an example, and you're kind of on this platform. And when I'm in that moment, I believe I'm fully moved out of the way, and God is getting all the glory.
Yeah.
But I've had this happen multiple times. You get back to the hotel, and you feel exhausted. You don't want to talk. You don't want to, you know, and then you open up IG and you see your DMs, and your phone has internet. And there's this understanding, like, man, I'm tired right now. I don't really have the fortitude to like make decisions. I'm a little bit brain dead.
I can't resist right now. Yeah.
And it's like that's where the accountability comes into play.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, that's where, I mean, shoot, even my pops is my road manager, and even having him on the road with me, or, you know, there's been times where he's just like, multiple people have all my social media logins, you know, different members of my team. And because what I realize is I'm inspired by, you know, guys like Reinhard Bonnke, where he's like, when you watch the story of his life, it's called Legacy of Harvest, and there's this one line that stood out to me. Reinhard Bonnke was a man of marked integrity. There was never a hint of any scandal. What if that was the well done, my good and faithful servant at the end of my life?
Right.
I'm far from perfect. I messed up so much, and we could talk about it.
Yeah.
But like the beauty of the platform God has given me is I feel like he waited to give me a platform until he knew I would be prepared to handle it. Yeah. Not in my own strength. Same thing with Billy Graham and his team. Before they started, they got together and they had this meeting. Like, what are all the things that bring down other ministries? What are the things that could go wrong? Okay, the money being handled wrong. There's money scandals. You know, the pastor's cheating on his wife. All this stuff. Okay, let's build up defense against that so that it doesn't happen. That's why, like for me, right, I believe that someday there will be a time where my platform is much larger than it is now, and the temptation is even higher, and the you know, the temptation to be arrogant is even bigger, and all this stuff. So it's like, I got to prepare for war now. I got to build out, you know, have the people with the logins, and, you know, have the accountability on the road, and have different members of my friend group who are checking, you know, whether it's you staying in the gym, are you eating right, is your mindset right? You know, my dad the other day, like, he'll walk in and you know, as an artist, you have to listen to all types of music to be inspired. But there'll be times where he'll walk in the hotel room and he'll call me on it. He'll be like, all right, bro, like I feel like you've gotten enough context for that. You don't need to keep listening to that. We got a show tonight. And not everybody's called to that standard, but I want to be different in order to make a difference. So, you know, and my mom has been that way my whole life. We grew up, it was like boot camp. Like, she's always expecting a higher standard than what I can see for myself. That's like a good coach. I want to be like the Kobe Bryant, where everybody else is getting ready to wind down and I'm still working. Yeah. And I think, like, to your point, the reason why I say all of this is because you are never above temptation.
Right.
Even Jesus was tempted in all things. Now, he didn't fall.
Right.
But even he was susceptible to temptation.
Sure.
Because he was fully man.
Yeah.
The devil is smarter than you and I. He's been around for thousands and thousands of years. He's seen all these human archetypes. He knows the strategies. Mm-hmm. He knows the formulas. We talked about the battle for the mind. Even the world around us is smarter than us at how to get us to be distracted or to fall. I mean, if something's free, you're the product. So they know how to offer us distractions, things that are going to keep us fat and happy and not get better and not get closer to God. So if all of these enemies around us, whether it's people, whether it's society, whether it's the enemy, if they're all smarter than us and they're all better than us at figuring out this battle of the mind and the body, how do we have any kind of hope at all? I mean, I'm waking up and I know that it's real. How do I die in that area? How do I have any hope at all? And that's where it's like, all right, I need something bigger than me. I need a source.
Yeah, so what I like about what you're saying is you're taking the approach, and I think all of us can do this to some level, to structure your life in such a way that the flesh has less of a chance to take over.
Exactly.
Right? So whether it's people, whether it's technology, I know of guys who deal with pornography issues and they have software on their computers that other people can keep them accountable. They can see when they logged in and how long they were on and what they were looking at and those kinds of things, the blockers and all that kind of stuff. You can talk to people about the way you eat, have that exercise routine, make sure you're getting out of bed at a certain time, whatever you got to do. And I'd encourage people to go to the extreme if they have to, because this is so important.
An extreme that we do is like social media and I used to struggle a lot with sleeping because we talked about it. My mind was always going.
Right.
And an easy answer is just get on the phone and start to scroll and stuff.
Right.
You can't sleep, turn on Netflix or get on TikTok or something like that, right? So my dad got us these for when we travel, and then I ended up keeping it at the house too when I'm back home. It's like it was in the Netflix show, Social Dilemma? The Social Dilemma.
Yeah.
Where it's like the plastic box with the timer on the top that you can't get in and out of. Oh. That's why I put my phone in at night. I can hear my alarm, but then that way I'm actually sleeping.
That's great.
And I'm not, and it's not even something crazy, but I mean, elevate your standards to help yourself. I know that I would be losing sleep and be less focused when I needed to be doing things because I'd be getting on social media or I'd be on Netflix or something. So I'm just going to lock it up until the morning and I'm going to force myself to take care of my body. Yeah. Those are simple things. Like you said, the food thing, over time it'll hurt you. It's not maybe as drastic as somebody who has a drug addiction and they're dealing and wrestling with that. Yeah. But everybody's individual struggles are also valid to their experience. So it's like you said, get extreme with it if you need to.
Yeah. I think that's a great place to land this thing because there's so much more we can talk about, but this hopefully getting motivated to put the structure in place where your body is just under the control, not of it. It's not in control, but you're in control of it through the Spirit. Crucify the flesh. So that's such an important part because, man, especially in the really dire things like we've been talking about, you make some choices, they can send you down a spiral. Mm-hmm. Some choices with your body, they can send you down a spiral that can hurt your spirit, they can hurt your mind, they could hurt your heart. So we got to be really careful with that. Yeah,
be extreme if necessary.
Absolutely.
I have a friend who literally moved out of state because the people he was around were pulling him into the wrong lifestyle.
That's it.
It's whatever you need to do, get used to saying no, and get your heart, your soul, and your mind in closeness with God. That's how you die. Yeah. The love the Lord your God with all your strength is all about discipline, because you either suffer the pain of discipline or you suffer the pain of regret. If you can learn the discipline through how do you live with your heart, your soul, and your mind, then the strength of your carnality, Mr. Ugly, isn't gonna win. Yeah, me too, right? You gotta have this frustration. Like, I don't want him picking my life. I don't want him choosing, the worst possible option that's gonna happen if I'm neutral. Yeah. Never be neutral. Live on purpose, seek God first, ask for his will, and daily just I know that my life is not my own. I'm a living sacrifice. So I'm consistently asking for his will and his way, and I'm giving up the stuff that's comfortable, and I'm choosing his path, the narrow road. Yeah, perfect. That's the wake up, die. That's how we approach
strength in the Wake Up Die lifestyle. That's the one we're inviting you to join us. WakeUpDie.com. That's the website. That's the community.
Exactly.
The community. And share with us, whether you're on the Discord or you're on YouTube, share with us what are the areas of strength you're struggling with. And maybe together we can figure out a way to structure your life so that that's under control of the Spirit and not in control of you. So WakeUpDie.com. That's where they go, man.
Absolutely. It all starts with recognizing the issue and then giving it to God.